Hi, my name is Mandy and welcome to Pickety Stitch Life is So Creative. You can catch me on Instagram, also under the name of Pickety Stitch. I'm also on Ravelry and I've just changed my username and that is also Pickety Stitch. When I first started vlogging in January this year, I aimed to get a vlog out on YouTube every month and I've already failed because in March I didn't do one. And that is because it's been a bit of a busy time for me. My second granddaughter arrived, which is my fourth grandchild. She arrived on Mother's Day, which is Mother's Day in UK, which was in March, which was really apt. And it's going to be a special time every year now, Mother's Day is, because it'll be my granddaughter's birthday as well. So mother and baby are doing fine, so it's been a really exciting time. And my my middle daughter is having her second child, which will be my fifth grandchild in 2 weeks' time. We've already had a baby shower, which I'll talk more about later, because I've obviously made some gifts for that as well. So let's start off with crocheting. Now, for those of you who remember on my last two podcasts, I was in the middle of a project. I was using the wool called Celeste, and it was this green sparkly wool, and I was crocheting a cardigan for myself, and I had to rip it back. I made a couple of mistakes with it, but I persevered and I finished it and blocked it, and this is the finished article. So it's got a peplum, and I've even put on the buttons. Now these buttons, I don't know if they are actually buttons. I got them from the Range, which is in the USA your equivalent to Hobby Lobby, and they're like little roses, and I think they were for weddings, but I thought, they look really great for buttons, these do. So I bought them with the intention of using them as buttons. So, finished article. And I've also got another one. Been really busy. So, let's get on to knitting. Last time I saw you, I was talking to you about a jumper. I was knitting. Sorry about the close-up. And it's got a bit of hair oil in, and I blocked it. Haven't wore this yet. I did have to smile because on my last podcast I said it was a pinky grey wool, and two friends of mine, Tina and Wendy, came up from Plymouth to visit, and they said, pinky grey? How can you have pinky grey? Well, when I showed them the jumper, they said, we understand now what you mean about pinky grey, because although it is grey, there is a pink hue to it as well, which I don't think the camera's quite picking up. But there we go. Another finished article. Can't believe it. And then, because I'm on Ravelry, I'm a member of a group called Inside Number 23, and they were doing a cowl, which is a knit-along, and they were doing an Andy Satterland, who's a designer, a knitwear designer, and they were doing a cowl, and you had to pick a garment designed by Andy Satterland, but as usual I was just too late to join that particular cowl, but I thought, hey ho, I'll still have a go. Now I've put my glasses on, I can't see a thing. So here we go. I've decided I chose to knit the Blaster cardigan, and I chose this wool. It's a Flange from Italy. And you can't quite see it yet because I haven't put the band on, but there we go. Hopeful I shall have this ready next week. So I've more or less finished that, and as you can see, I've still got it on the needles because I'm just knitting up the band. So I think I've got 2 more rows of that rib to do, do the button band, the neck band, and that'll be finished. So there we go, the Blaster cardigan. Too late to join the cowl because the cowl's finished, but I've really enjoyed knitting it. It's the first time I've ever done knit top down, and I was a little bit unsure of how to do it. But I looked on Instagram and saw the photographs of people's works in progress. So from that I sort of got an idea how to do it. And then there was short rows, and I've never knit short rows, so a quick video on YouTube showed me how to do that, and hey ho, away I went. The only thing I'd say with this particular cardigan was how many times I've had to rip it back, I don't know, and that's nothing to do with the pattern, it's all to do with me, because, you know, I'm trying to watch television, and it's so easy to just, you know, knit an extra row and realise that you should have been knitting two together. To make the holes, so you know, that was completely my fault, and then I lost count on doing one of the sleeves, so I've had to put it on and measure, but anyhow it's done, so I'm quite pleased with that. So that's all my knitting at the moment. And I usually like to have a crochet project on the go and a knitting on the go, and once I've knit these bands up, that's it. I've got no other projects except for the sock what's hiding in the bag. I'm just looking now. I have bought some more wool. And in March, I went to a show called the Hobbycraft Show in Birmingham. And that, sorry about the rustle in the bag. And I bought this sparkles wool, which I thought would make a nice shawl. You see, where I work in the office, believe it or not, in this day and age, it's very cold. And a lot of the ladies, a lot of us get quite cold, and we've all got shawls at work, what we just wrap round us just to keep the chill off. So I've got to be special, and I'm going to knit myself a really lovely shawl, because those are all shop bought jobs. So there we go. I really do like this. And I thought this would make a really lovely shawl. But it's summer, so I don't know if I'm going to be starting this yet. I can't wait to get into our local wool shop and have a good meander round. Now I fancy knitting next. I've gone very vintage for some reason. I fancy knitting next something, you know, a vintage pattern. Although Andy Satterland does design vintage patterns, I fancy something a lot of her cardigans are quite short, and I fancy something a little bit longer. So I'm going to look at Ravelry again, because I fancy knitting top down again on the circulars. And I'm looking at bottle green, something like that, because that's quite a vintage colour. So I can't wait for Saturday, because I'm not going to get my partner drop me off, because that's just a huge mistake, because I've left him in the car waiting on the car park, and I feel I have to be quick. I want to have a good browse, you know, a good hour in there, having a good look at what I'm, you know, picking for my next project. My granddaughter came to visit a few weekends ago. She's wanting to make some cushions for her bedroom. So we did a simple calculation for a cushion, and there's a fantastic video on the CraftyGemini channel on YouTube, and she shows you a very simple calculation of how to make a cushion. So my granddaughter is really now, she can cut out the fabric, and she's had a go on the sewing machine, and so she can really make her own cushions, which is really cool, because it's lovely when you can pass on your hints and tips to your grandchildren and watch them grow, you know, when they're sewing and becoming really creative. That's great. And we went to the stitching show, and I picked up some lovely fabric, and it was from a store called Higgs and Higgs. So this is the card, Higgs and Higgs, and this is the fabric. It's got Dachshunds on, which I thought was rather apt, because I've got two Dachshunds. So here is the cushion. And just put some bias on the back. So just finishes it off. So I made a couple of those. And it's surprising what drapes and furnishing decor can, you know, do to a room, how they can liven it up. And I've put them on I've got a conservatory with wicker suite, and I put the 2 cushions on, and now the wicker suite looks really old, so I'm thinking of recovering that. So if I do, I'll do a video on that. So I went into our local, sorry about the crackling, I went into our local haberdashery shop and I saw this lovely cushion, and I said to the owner, Sarah, I said, that's absolutely beautiful. And she told me it was a local lady in Stoke-on-Trent, and she does a blog called Berryham Makes, and she designed this cushion, and she actually did some craft classes showing people how to put the cushions together. Of course, I had to go on Berry Makes and fathomed out how she'd done it. And I bought the exact material what she had done this cushion in, because, you know, I'm not very good at putting stuff together, colours together. I'm absolutely useless. But I thought it was really pretty, and so I have copied her design, and I've made a cushion for my daughter, and it's in this clothworks fabric called I Love You. And she'd put a pink band across, and then I've more or less picked the same fabric she has, and then it's all coordinating fabric, and then on the back we've got another coordinating one, and then I've lined it with the other coordinating fabric, so it's all from the same range, I Love You, and then it says Guess How Much I Love You. And it did tickle me because she put a photograph of the baby, and she'd got a baby grow on, and it had got this rabbit on saying, Guess How Much I Love You. And I thought that's very apt. So she'd been saying to me, come on Mum, where's my cushion? And so that's why I thought I'd better get this vlog out, because I'm hopeful that either tomorrow or Thursday I can pop in and give her this cushion. On the Berryham Makes, she does round her cushions, so but it's tending to bow a bit. I think I've jam-packed it a little bit too much, but. And I also bought the same fabric, coordinating fabrics in blue, and I've already done that one and given it to my middle daughter because she's expecting a little boy. But across there I put a sage green ribbon, so that really set it off. So there we go. When I talk about being cushioned out, I have been, because I've been making cushions. Okay, so let's get on to my next make. And I decided I'd make a blouse. I'll just get you the pattern, sorry about that. And it's a 1 by Simplicity, and look at this. I never can put the patterns back in. And it's a bit of a strange phenomenon, that, because when you cut them out, you throw that much tissue away. You'd think that they'd all slip back in, but they never do. And it's a retro pattern, and it's that blouse there, which is there, which looked really cool on this model, but not so cool on me. It's a bit creased, actually, because I've just put it on the side. But I don't know if you can see the fabric there. It's like a paisley. It's a silk. Trouble is, when you hold them up, they don't look as good. But anyhow, there's the blouse. It made me laugh because I had it on my mannequin, and I said to my partner, I said, hey, do you like my new make? And he said, have you gone back to the Beatles? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it reminds me of something what the Beatles wore when in the Sgt. Pepper era. Which was a bit apt, because that night when I wore it, we did go see a band what was meant to be playing the Beatles, but there we go. So, not so much retro, more Sgt. Pepper, that one. But it looks okay. I've also made this, I thought I'd wear it. It's not Paola. The Paola jumper, and that was by Named Patterns. Now what gave me the idea for that one was, and I wrote it down, it was another vlog I watch on YouTube a lot, and it's called I Sew a Lot, and it was Amanda on I Sew a Lot who had made this Paola, and she also, I think she did a challenge, an hour challenge to make it. The Hobbycraft show, I got this fabric and I thought I'll have a go. I've never ever sewn with jersey, I've always veered away from it. But after watching quite a few videos, I'd bought some of the ballpoint needles and did the zigzag stitch, and I got some clear elastic for the shoulders, and it was such an easy pattern. I couldn't believe how easy it was to put the PDF together and to get it sewn up. I mean, I'm going to now talk about the baby shower because I made another quilt for that, and I also made a changing mat. And you might remember on my first podcast, I'd made a changing mat for my other daughter. So I made another one using retro rocket. I think it's all Rocket Rascals. But now I'm going to just slot that bit of video in there of the baby shower. Hi, sorry about the mess behind me. Just a quick show and tell just before I go to my daughter's baby shower. We're going to Crewe Hall for afternoon tea, so I've made a couple of gifts, and one is a baby's changing mat. Initially I made my other daughter a changing mat, which I showed in my first podcast, and this is one I've made for my second one, my middle daughter, and it's out of a fabric called Rocket Rascals by Michael Miller. It's a retro inspired fabric. I've covered that in plastic, that bit, so we can wipe it clean. So you basically unfold it and lay baby on that, and there's two pockets there what you can put your baby wipes in and nappies and cream, etc. And then you just fold the pockets in and fold it back up, and you're good to go. So I'm hoping she'll like that one. And then the next gift I've made is a little quilt just for in the car. I used a fabric, and I'll put a link in down below to that fabric because I've forgotten whom this is by. But I had some pink fabric and I made my daughter a little quilt for in the car, and then my middle daughter, who's expecting her baby middle of May, as you can tell by the colour, what she'll be expecting, a little boy. So there we go. And I've used the magic binding, Susie's magic binding. I have found another tutorial on YouTube, and that's by Jenny Doan, Missouri Quilt. So I'll put a link into that. So she also shows you how to make this type of binding. It's very neat. You can see that, yeah. So she also gives a really good tutorial on how to do this type of binding. It's a quick method because you're not hand sewing. So there we go, and I'll get back in touch after the shower. So, okay, I hope you enjoyed that. So, that little chat about the baby shower and what I'd made. And now we're going to go over to talking about a wedding dress I've made. Now, no, I haven't been asked to make a wedding dress for someone who's getting married now. I've got a colleague at work who is doing a surprise party for her mum and dad. It's their golden wedding anniversary, and she had this idea, well, she's got this idea of putting a wedding dress on the mannequin. So when guests come in to sign in, they will see this, what her mother wore. Unfortunately, her mum no longer has her wedding dress. So I sort of said, okay, I'll have a go. And I looked at the photograph, and I had one photograph to work off. The book Gertie's Ultimate Dress Book, where she calls it Frankensteining dresses together. And I thought, well, that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to hack something together. And I must say, for those of you, if you haven't got this book, it's well worth buying, because the tips and the information I've learnt from this, you know, out of this book and this last weekend, the bank holiday weekend, you know, it's untrue. She really is inspirational, and it's just a source of, you know, information. It's got everything in here. So what I decided on, I think it's called a hot pink dress. And on this one, because the wedding dress on the photograph had like a boat neck, but on this it has got a midriff. And I thought, well, if I put the midriff on, if I just do the top, put long sleeves on, and then put the bottom half of this dress on, the dark green one, I've got the wedding dress more or less how it looked in the photograph. So that's what I decided to do. And I even made a toile first. So although Mum won't be wearing the dress, it's going on a mannequin, I just thought, well, you know, I'll just make sure, because I was a little bit unsure. I wanted to make sure the neckline was neat. So I made this first out of some old fabric I'd got. And that just shows you the top. And I popped a sleeve and just make sure everything was, whoops, can we see? Everything was right. So, but I mean, this bit, which is the what they call the midriff, that sort of went up, and I thought, well, if I put the skirt down and miss this bit out and put the skirt on this, is the skirt going to raise up at the sides? And I'm going to get myself in a bit of a pather here. So what I decided to do was to put on the top and the midriff, and then put the long skirt to that. It's not quite completed yet, but that is the top, and I'm quite pleased with that. And the sleeve, whoops, knocking everything about here, that's it. And the sleeve. And then I bought this pearl trim from Minerva, is it Minerva Crafts? A very quick delivery, very impressed. And then I decided to put a zipper in, although she did say don't worry too much about putting a zipper in, because it's just going to go on a mannequin. But I thought, you know, now the only thing disappointing with myself really is that I've put a lapped zipper in, which is the vintage way to do it, but I've just got a little bit off kilter there. I should have put it in lower so I could put a hook and eye on, but I'm not going to undo it now because the party's this weekend. I've just got finished sewing this beading on, but yeah, I feel quite pleased about that. I don't think she'll mind me putting the midriff on, because it is all vintage, isn't it? That's how it would have looked. So I've sent her a photograph and she's really pleased. So just got to hem it up, and that's the wedding dress finished. So I'm very quite chuffed, which for those of you not from round here means I'm quite pleased. So bit of that. Had quite an eventful month with making my projects. It's been really exciting time for me, and I've got some more exciting times to come in May with the birth of my other grandchild, so looking forward to that. So until then, happy sewing.